Drinks with the leaders, come on everyone. Drinks with the leaders, it's time to have fun. Business people, lots of ideas. You need some advice, come right here. Drinks with leaders is here.
Where is he? Hi, Sky. How are you?
Oh, right here. How are you doing?
There you are, right behind your child's book.
Well, it's fall decor, but my kids are into Paw Patrol right now, so that's what's rocking. So, what's rocking in your world?
I don't feel that bad for you because I've caught a couple episodes of Paw Patrol, and it's a lot better. My son's going to be 14 this week, right? Which is a whole game changer. But it's a lot better. We had the Wonder Pets. They came with a nonstop song. They came with flying duck. Everyone got us this gift that was a duck that would sing the song. So I feel like Paw Patrol, they've at least brought down a little bit of the parental annoyance. Is that a good word?
No, I get it. There's a lot of toys that, it's the same thing over and over again. Same with shows. Matt Basinger, one of our guests, was referencing a movie from 1987 today, The Princess Bride. So it's funny how we all have these weird cultural connections when we're around the same age. But yeah, kids' movies have gotten better, but I don't know about the shows. So it's very interesting. But I'm really excited because we have our first guest from Bank of Blue Valley, which is one of our metropolitan area's largest banks. A lot of people don't realize that, and their national footprint. So I'm really excited. I know they're hiring a lot of positions. They are our sponsor for this show, and they are very ingrained in the community. So we can't wait to finally not pitch them ourselves, but also have one of our guests talk about a lot of the things they have going on, including the link that you're showing.
Yeah, and it's a really long link. So I'm going to put it over in our show, in our pages, so you guys can get to this. But they are hiring. They continue to grow, which is awesome during COVID. So if you're looking for a job, head over to this link. Make sure that you tell them we sent you so they continue to love us. I know I'm really excited about our show today. We actually had not seen each other for a really long time until yesterday.
Yeah, we should know. Yeah, I think it's only been like 12 hours since I've seen you.
I know. I mean, but before yesterday. So yesterday we were lucky enough to go to the Big Brother, Big Sister golf tournament.
Mm-hmm.
We did not really golf, but we had fun.
Didn't. So you were in a really big deal golf tournament because you're the top fundraiser for Big Brothers Big Sisters Most Wanted. So you won a very expensive golf outing, and you were very nice to invite me and friends.
Yeah, and then we realized real quick we were out of our golfing element. So then we just did what we did best, and we socialized. And it was a great time. And we met all sorts of people that said they watched the show. So it was pretty fun.
Exactly. So we're as we're prepping, I'm putting the song together.
Oh, you got
and we're going to be introducing the fourth guest, and we don't even know if he's on yet, but he should be.
He's on. I can see he's on. So
okay. Well, then never mind. What are we doing?
You're playing music and you're doing intros?
Let's dance.
Is that what's going on? You're doing all the things?
I'm ready to roll.
Okay.
You ready to dance?
I'm ready. Are you ready? Start your music,
right.
Do your intros, and I'll bring people in.
Starting out from Bank of Blue Valley, Shanee Kimber. Hey, Shanee. Number 2, Matt Baysinger. Number 3, easy to pronounce name, Annie Lemon. And I am drinking. And finally, fourth, as he's rolling in from his 2:00 meeting, Lucas Ingala.
Yeah!
You came in like fire.
Come on, guys, let's do this.
Hey, Annie, I think Scott gave you a nickname. Do you ever go by Annie?
Yeah, I got a little confused. I was texting Anne Erickson. Ingram's 20 in their 20s is looking for some good candidates. So anyone watching the show, let me know. They're putting that issue together. But Lucas, you look very young with that shaved look, all clean and fresh.
Thanks, man.
Spring chicken.
Just trying to keep as young as I can. trying to look as good as I can. So yeah, thank you. Appreciate that. You too. You look good too. You guys all look good. It's a great day to be alive.
Lucas has this. Lucas has this. We can just go.
We just look good from here up.
Yeah, you don't. In today's age, you don't have to look good except from here up, right?
Exactly. A whole new
Okay,
world.
I'm going to tell a quick story and then we're going to get started. I have an 8-year-old in virtual school, and last week she came in and she looked so sad. And I said, "What's wrong?" She said, "Our teacher is making us take a full body picture every day to show her that we got all the way dressed." She goes, "I was just planning on doing what you do, Mom, and put on some stretch pants and a nice shirt."
That's funny.
So say hello if you were on here. I know a ton of you guys are on for your favorite people. So do say hello. Tell us if you're watching from anywhere from Kansas City or where in Kansas City. I feel like everyone's spread out now. And let's get started. So Shanee, tell us who you are and what you do and how you end up here.
You know, I have no idea how I end up here, but my name is Shanee Kimber. I'm a Community and Business Development Officer for Ingala Valley, the sponsor. So very excited to be the first guest for Ingala Valley on so many more to come. So I know that's really great. We are so fun and so excited to be a part of this. And I was asked to join just to give you guys some color on what we do and so much that we do in the community, and it is a lot of it.
Well, we're super excited to have you here today. Next, we're going to go, Matt Basinger. Who are you? What do you do?
It's a great question. I am Matt. I'm with Swell Spark. You guys probably know us better as Breakout KC or Blade and Timber. We make fun things in Kansas City. Maddie Carr is the bomb, and she knows me, and she's on watching, and that makes me just so happy. No, it's our goal to gather people for shared experiences and make it easy for them to have fun, and that's what we try to do on a daily basis.
Awesome. And then I'm going to guess that this is one of your friends over here that's leaving a comment, but now I think that Scott's changed your name in the city.
Yeah, sorry about that.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Scott.
My apologies.
Only my family call me Annie, but apparently now the whole world does. That's okay. That's okay.
I knew.
Thank you, Scott. I needed the new nickname. Ann Lemon, Ann with an E, so I could see the confusion. It's fine. And I am managing principal of U.S. Asset Services. We're a commercial property management company. We specialize in managing government leased assets around the country. Our current portfolio takes us to 13 states, and we have assets valuing about $500 million. So good times.
And thank you for bringing your drink.
Cheers.
I appreciate it.
Yeah,
she gave us a little bit of a speech that we haven't been drinking enough on this show. So,
I mean, I feel a little weird drinking at 3 p.m., but not a lot.
When we started calling the show Drinks with Leaders, it was because it was during COVID when no one was driving anywhere. So we drank a lot then. So don't feel weird. It's totally normal.
I'm at home. It's fine.
Lucas, how about you? Who are you and how did you get here?
So Lucas Ingala, owner and founder, CEO, Watchmen Security Services. We are not guards. Okay, so we don't run around shooting people and all tasing and doing all that stuff. We're electronic building security. I was born and raised in Kansas City. Matter of fact, my grandpa had a produce company down in the River Key area. But a little bit about Watchmen is, no one really knows when their commercial property or home is like a target for intruders. And so we expertly install, deploy, test our electronic system so that you're always safe and never caught off guard. And we do that in a lot of different ways. But basically keep Kansas City safe and keep eyes on people. So, yeah, that's a little bit about me.
Raise my hand. Got a call on me, Aaron. Yes, Matt, you called on me? Thank you.
Yep.
So before you go back to Shanee, the two questions at hand for Ann and Lucas is, Ann, you have a show, and also you and Lucas have very complementary businesses to each other. So
we do.
The two questions is this your first time meeting Lucas? And my next question is tell us about your show, and then I have a question for Lucas about hiring.
Okay. So my podcast is called a Great Minds in Business podcast. Scott has been a guest. Thank you. He was amazing. This is my first time being a guest. So it's a little different than being a host, a little more not nerve-wracking. So, but I'm excited. And Lucas, have we met? I feel like we probably have. I've met several people from your company.
Okay.
And I am familiar with your services. So he would definitely try to sell to me. So I'm sure.
Yeah.
We'll see how he does. And so Lucas, and then Aaron's go back to questions. One thing you taught that I wanted people to know when we're talking about hiring for Bank of Blue Valley, because they have a lot of different positions. The one thing that I love is that you look for really good quality people, regardless of their background or skill sets, which I think is really unique. You're always looking for really hardworking folks to come join your team. So how did you come up with that philosophy of hiring, and are you hiring?
Yeah, so I came from like nothing, right? So I was a high school dropout. I didn't take the college route. The reason I dropped out was because I couldn't stay focused in class. So I wasn't meeting enough credits in my home ec class, my computer class. And she was like, well, you're going to have to make this up. And I was like, no, peace out. I'm not doing this. So I went out and I started mowing yards. So I was always entrepreneurial, right? School was just tough for me to focus and sit in there like that. And so one thing that I'm always looking for is like someone that wants to get in and work and make their way in doing anything, right? If you're committed to something, just being committed and showing up and focused on having a winning attitude and winning. So we circle it here at Watchmen. We hire, fire, live, and die by our core values. Okay, so it's a RISE. It's an acronym, a RISE. And it's attitude, responsibility, integrity, servanthood, and excellence. And we define those. And it doesn't matter if there's 20 of us, 30 of us, or 500 of us. That's the glue that holds us all together. So when we're looking for the right person, it doesn't really matter your background. It doesn't matter your education. We're looking for the cultural fit. And we always go with that first. And then we have some data ways that we do that through Culture Index and things like that to bring people on. But one of the things that jazzes me up is we have a new guy that's working here. He's a new technician, and he's young, and he's just wanting to grow. And he's just hungry and humble and teachable. And that's our attitude, hungry, humble, and teachable. And I mean, if that kid keeps that attitude, he can come take my spot someday. And I got my eyes out. I'm always looking for who's going to come rise up in the company, and how much potential can I unlock in that person? That's probably one of my giftings is just seeing talent and then unlocking it. And so we have that culture here within the company. And none of us, there's 25 of us going on 30, and none of us knew anything about security when we all joined this company. So we're literally like, growing this thing together.
But you do now, right? You know a thing or two about security. Right?
So we wouldn't have 25 or 30 if we didn't. And we wouldn't have, 125 5-star reviews on Google. But yes, that's that we do now. Yeah. So
I don't want to get in trouble. Yeah. Aaron's going to ask the questions, but I thought it would be a good way to spark it off between two similar industries. Go ahead, Aaron. I apologize.
I thought we're just going to say they both enjoy wearing burgundy as well.
I know we're matching today.
Yep.
Yeah.
This is like cool.
Yeah, you the blue memo. I like it. Nobody wore hot pink for some reason. I will tell you, Lucas, I don't know if I'm supposed to say this on air, but I think that's my brand anyway, saying stuff I'm not supposed to say. If I would have dropped out of high school and looked like you, I might have gone down the modeling. If Instagram would have been a thing, you could have made a lot of money in Instagram modeling. So,
I was a lead gene model, just so you know.
I knew it. I could see it in your eyes.
I did do that. So
I always say those 20-year-old kids got a lot more ways to make money now when they drop out. I dropped out too. So, Shanee, can you talk to us a little bit about what you specifically do at Blue Valley, Bank of Blue Valley? And then usually right now we talk about our wins, right? And that looks different at a bank during COVID than it does if you're all of a sudden you have a small business where people can't walk in. Like Matt will get to you next, but it's a much different experience through COVID for you guys, right? So can you kind of talk about what you do at Bank of Blue Valley, and then what your COVID experience was, and some of the stuff that you saw that y'all were doing that was just like above and beyond?
Thank goodness I get to talk about the COVID experience. I'll say first, what I do is the best job ever. I get to work in a for-profit job, but get to connect with everything that is nonprofit and for-profit. So I get to connect with all our nonprofit partners. I get to make sure that we're actually tapped into what the community says that we should be tapped in, and not what we say we should be tapped into in the community. So I think that's always so much fun that I get to work with all of our school districts. I get to work with other nonprofits like Chess Inc. and Mountain Plains Minority Supplier Development Council, who takes care of notifications. I get to work with cities, each one of the cities that we have offices in, and I get to make sure that we're adhering to what they say that they need from us as a for-profit bank that is a community bank. Bob started this bank 30 years ago, and we want to make sure that we're still holding true to all the things that he set this bank out to be when he first opened the doors in a double wide trailer that I hear a story about every single time we have one of our first customers that come in. They say, I've been here since you guys were a double wide. And I said, okay, let me shut up. You tell me what you need. And so that's always so much fun. And then I also head up our at work division, which is our financial education. One of the biggest things that I think during COVID that I believe that we did so well is we adapted, and we never shut our doors. We never said that, hey, we're a bank that we're not going to lend right now. We're stopping lending. We're not going to, hey, Deborah. That's one of my coworkers, our head of card. I know her. So we never said that we weren't going to stop doing business. We were going to be there for our customers, however they needed. As a community bank, we could not see our small businesses shutting their doors and us do the same to them. We couldn't see ourselves say, okay, you know what, PPP is just too much. No, we said, hey, we're just going to we got to pull 15-hour days. And so many of our underwriters were up until 2 a.m., 3 a.m. I pulled a lot of 4 a.m. days too, where we were shutting down, doing everything we can to get our small businesses through, as well as still keep the connection to what's going on and finding support where we can put it. So I think that's been amazing for us, that we did not say, yeah, it's going to be a no for us. We didn't do that. We say, you know what, hey, how can we figure it out? And whatever we need to do to figure it out, let's do it. And we're not going to say no to our customers. So let's do that. And so we did. We turned on our cameras and we went from meetings to meetings virtually. We hosted seminars and we continue to do our virtual financial education. And we didn't do it just for small businesses, even though they are such a huge portion of our focus. We did it for our consumers too. Financial literacy for the middle class during this time of COVID. I think everybody kind of forgot about that. Our employees are struggling too. It goes from us having a conversation about unemployment, which is huge, and then small business, but then we forget that huge section of the country right there in the middle that didn't get laid off, but most definitely maybe had a reduction in hours or is trying to figure a lot of things out. And so we amped up our At Work program to try and help our businesses keep their employees happy, but not just not having them laid off, but helping them get through this thriving and not feel like they had to reduce. So that's what I do. And that's how I would say that's our biggest win. We didn't shut doors. We kept going and we grew during this COVID time.
Yeah. When you got women in leadership, that's what that looks like. I like that. Right?
That's what it is. When you have a president like Wendy Reynolds that says, bring your ideas to the table. No idea is too big. No idea is too small. Let's figure it out and let's see how we can make them work, because we've never been here before, but we got some testing to do.
I like that. Yeah, that's really impressive. One of the other people that I was really impressed with during COVID, I think this was probably one of my biggest lessons as a business leader, is I think most business classes you take, they say, you're the boss, you're the boss, you're the boss. It's your way or the highway. When you have an employee defense attorney, they say, well, they work for you. I have never seen somebody have to lay off people and those people literally thank them for laying them off until I started watching. I'm connected with a lot of Matt Basinger's employees, now again, employed employees. And I watched in a mastermind, Matt, where we talked about how difficult it was for you in private conversations, but then watched your employees thank you for the way that you handled it. Can you kind of talk about your COVID experience and how you're coming out? I was telling you earlier, me and my kids keep coming. Now you got to schedule out early to come see you these days.
You have to be more specific when you say employees were thanking me for laying them off, right? It's like, here's Swell Spark. We closed earlier than I think a lot of businesses did here in Kansas City. And part of that is we have a location in Seattle. Seattle was the first epicenter of COVID in the country. And so I think for better or worse, we kind of knew what was coming a little bit. But I do think, it was the worst. I mean, lots of tears from myself and other folks on staff and really just a terrible time. But I think we were pretty transparent across the board with what we were doing and why we were doing it. And the hope and goal was to have something to come back to. We're in that mid-range, right? We had 240 employees that we had to let go of. And we still only have 7 of our 10 locations open right now. We still have 3 that are still shut down for local city ordinances in Honolulu and Seattle. But our goal was simply to make it, and we've had, it's fun hearing from Lucas. Lucas, did you go through EOS by chance?
Yeah, man, we follow that. Yeah.
Which another conversation for another day, but I think we had a really good idea going into COVID of what we wanted to accomplish this year. And we wanted to accomplish growth, and we wanted to accomplish creating a really great sustainable headquarters here in Kansas City. And obviously we had an idea of what that was going to look like. And then all of this happened and the goals didn't change, just the avenue by which we were going to try to get there did. And so it still sucks. I mean, there's people who we lost, folks who we had to lay off, and because they were incredibly talented, they found other jobs, other places. And I don't fault them for that at all. So we came back with a somewhat different team. But it was the story that got a lot of traction. We had a gal who, we laid her off, and I came to the office the next day and she had beat me to the office. And I was like, Brady, you don't work here anymore. Like, what are you doing? And she's like, I believe in the mission and there's work to be done. Like, I had to send her home anyway, because probably our lawyers would have told us to or something like that. But the really neat thing is she actually, so many of our employees have had these tremendous stories. Hers was she wanted to go to Nashville. She just has always wanted to live in Nashville. And we were able, through LinkedIn, through connections, to get her a job in Nashville with some of our connections down there. And strange enough, we actually opened a new Nashville store 2 weeks ago. So as bizarre as it was to shut down and lay off, 6 months ago, we're to the point now that we're back to reopening stores. And I think the future of Swell Spark, of Blade and Timber, of Breakout is hopefully a really bright one. It's like that sun over your shoulder, Aaron. You gotta other direction, Scott. There you go.
Oh, that's great.
So, yeah.
Maybe that was an intense way to say it. People thanking you, but you did have to lay off people, and usually people get very angry because they don't understand the boss's perspective on that, right? That's the hardest part of being the business owner. And where I saw a lot of people upset that they were laid off, a lot of people upset of how it was handled. People actually said, we know this had to happen, and Matt handled it as absolutely best as could be handled.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And we love our people. I think COVID has drawn really clear lines, I think, in some ways of, so many businesses talk about family. And at the end of the day, though, you do have to make decisions for the business. And so for better or worse, Aaron, I don't think everyone has that perspective. I think a lot of them do. But as we've reopened, we've been thrilled with how many people have wanted to come back and how many people we've been able to bring back on already. As we, we're at a limited capacity, we can only be at X percentage and so forth. But we have folks who are, waiting on pins and needles for when they can start work again. And we hope to get them back in the fold as quickly as possible.
I will tell you too, I don't know if you remember this, but sometimes I can get a little feisty on LinkedIn. And I said, there was a story of how somebody else was laid off from a different company. And I said, do better or something. And you said, listen, you don't know their experience. Nobody wants to have to go through this. And I was like, you're right. All right. I don't like to say you're right a lot, but I did. Jesse says, way to represent Matt. Transparency, honesty, and doing right is how you lead. So I completely agree. All right, Anne. How about you? What is your COVID? This is the first time we've met. So what has your COVID experience been like? Kind of talk about some of your wins as well.
Yeah, so pre-COVID, I wouldn't have necessarily considered myself an essential worker. In commercial property management, what we do, I think you just, we're not superheroes. We're not necessarily what I would consider essential. And then COVID hit and you start to look at the things that you do on a daily basis and you're like, oh yeah, like we absolutely are essential. And, a lot of our clients look to us as an expert to say, okay, the country shut down, like we need to find a way to get back in the office safely and really look to us to be an expert in that. And so we put our heads down. We did so much homework. We did lots of research. We listened to about what seems like 1,000 webinars of experts trying to talk about CDC recommendations and what other municipalities are saying about what you need to do. And so we really just basically went to work and helped a lot of clients figure it out. We have a lot of government tenants that never did shut down. And so working through that process and, we honestly have been probably busier than ever, which is great given the landscape. And I don't say that lightly because of Matt's situation and what you had to deal with. I mean, we've been so fortunate, but it's a different time for us as well. So we have been very fortunate. We have had to get to work, and all of our clients, for the most part, are back to work. We have a few that are still part-time getting back into buildings and that kind of thing. But we just won another property management assignment last week. So, we're still getting work done and still growing. So we are very, very fortunate.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of people assume commercial was just going to be done, but I feel like it seems to just keep being really busy.
Yeah, I mean, it is and it isn't. And it's like people are adjusting. Like some of our clients that own their own buildings are trying to adjust and pivot and figure out, what the best way to be safe in their environment is. We have some clients that are essential, like construction companies or trucking companies, or like I said, the government facility, Homeland Security is one of our tenants. Veterans Administration is one of our tenants. And so those don't shut down. They just have to figure out how to make it happen. And they, that's what we do, is help them figure that out. So
nice. Lucas, what did COVID look like for you?
So my situation was interesting. Last year, I made some bad decisions as a business owner. So we overhired, we overspent, we overdid over everything, right? And it's because I'm a visionary and I see everything, and I didn't have someone saying, hey, this might not be a good idea. So there wasn't
Lucas, one question. We've talked about this a little bit, but do you think it was because you were surrounded by a bunch of people? Because when you're the CEO, a lot of people tell you that you're right. Do you think it was that, or did that have anything to do with it? Or
yeah, I didn't have the right leaders. I didn't have the right people around me to do. I didn't have the right people leading certain parts of the company, and I didn't have the right people around me, not only managing certain parts of the company, but around me going, hey, this isn't a good idea. What are you thinking, man? This is dumb, right? Or what, you know what I mean? It was just kind of like, yeah, let's do this. And I was like, yeah, let's do this. And, and then it just, so I'm just like going like this, right? And spending money and everything. And so, but by the end of the year, it was like, hey, what are we going to do with this thing? So I kind of went through like this horrible time in 19, it was like, I mean, I'm on the floor praying, help me. Right. And so then when we came into, so I started doing these team calls with the whole company. Like, hey guys, mandatory every morning, 5 minutes, everybody's hopping on. We're going to highlight people. We're going to talk about where we're heading. We're going to talk about the goals that we're crushing. What's our focus for the week? What are we accomplishing for the quarter? Right? It's kind of like a focus thing. As a matter of fact, a guy's out of town on vacation. He hopped on a team call this morning. Right? So everyone loves it. So we started doing that. And then this thing hit, And it was kind of, I mean, it was kind of like, oh, what are we going to do with this thing? But I'd already been through so much in 19. You know, I was like Rocky, right? The big guy came and knocked me out, and I'm training, you know, and I'm getting ready to have a fight again, you know? And so I kind of went through some of that. So when this thing hit, I felt like I built my business muscles up a little bit. And we right-sized the company. We got rid of the stuff that didn't need to be here. You know, there was one point last year, we had 4 technicians in the field and 7 people in the office. Okay, that doesn't even make sense. You guys are like, yeah, you're an idiot. So anyway, look at Matt, he's like, yeah. So anyway, so I felt like I'd kind of built my muscles. So when it hit, I feel like we really pulled together as a team, and then we got focused and just started taking down giants where we could take them down, right? And to Ann's point, construction still has kind of been going, you know, it hasn't completely shut down. And so, you know, that's been a thing, you know, I can't imagine the restaurants and everything like that, but that's been going. People still need their properties protected. A lot of people started calling because then we had riots, right? So people are busting into buildings. So people are calling us for that. The buildings are vacant, so they're calling us for that, right? And also, we started focusing on categories where there was revenue, where the dollars were going. We started focusing on those categories. So we had a lot of property management companies like Ann's, and we deal with big ones, thank you, Ann. And we had, you know, some other ones in town that they need services, and we're quick to respond and quick to make it right and quick to get out there. And they needed something frictionless access control. Well, how do I set it up to where I can just use an app and I don't have to have a card and germs and touching stuff to get in my building? And so, you know, we started assisting people with that as these buildings started opening back up, and that helped us. So I want to say that thankfully, you know, we've grown. Our revenue's up 50% from last year. You know, we've reduced costs.
I'd call that a wait. There's more. We've reduced costs.
We've reduced costs by 25%. The CFO, Pat Doolin, I'm gonna give a shout out to Pat, but he's like
Notre Dame grad.
He's like, this is amazing, you guys. I mean, in this, given the climate, and Joe that we work with over there at Core First Bank, you know, Joe Valenciano, you guys probably know Joe. But anyway, all these amazing things are happening, but I think it's because I've gotten the right people on the bus, the wrong people off the bus, and we've been able to focus on where we're heading and rally the troops to head in that direction. And I think that's probably been a lot of it. And to Ann's point, construction's still going, buildings still need to be, you know, there's the practical side of it too. But now I am a partner in a regenerative health clinic too. Some of you guys are like, why'd you do that? That doesn't even make sense. It's completely separate from security. But I was a patient there for like 15 years and they're needing help. Now they got whacked. I mean, like it was bad. It's been pretty rough over there. So I've seen both sides of it, you know. But you know, the demographic over there is a little older. We do regenerative therapy, like stem cells and things like that to grow cartilage in people's joints, and deal with people's pain. A lot of older people are in pain, so they're really, you know, cautious to come in and be around anybody that's had anything, right, or be in any environment. And so that's been tough to try to get them in and then deal with the banks and all that stuff. But I don't know, man, we've been growing. I mean, we're hiring people, we're growing. You know, I don't want to act like I'm in some oasis or whatever, you know what I mean? Like, but I think I went through my COVID last year. I think I had my own COVID last year.
How long have you been in business?
8 years.
I went through my COVID last year too. So, and then the more I started talking to people, I'll be at 5 years soon. And they kind of said in that there's some years, like 3 to 8 years, where you're still trying to figure some stuff out. And
yeah. So I talked to a mentor of mine. He's one of the youngest guy that's ever rang the bell on the New York Stock Exchange, and he sold the company for $150 million. His name's Brandon Dawson. But anyway, he's like, Lucas, you move a business. Like you went into the ship, you went into the port, and you went like this. He's like, you got to treat it like a tugboat. You make little changes, right? And you just move slowly. Because in 19, we changed our ERP management structure. We're doing EOS. I mean, there was all this stuff we're doing. And he's like, you don't do that. You do little stuff. You make little changes. And so just, and then he said there are break points to your point, right? When you go to 3 to 5 to 10 to 15 to 20 million, there's break points in each part of the business that we haven't experienced yet. But I don't want to go through that again, right? It's painful. And that's why you see businesses where they go like this. It's not like typically like that, but it's just painful. And I want to prevent those points as much as possible. So I'm like, anybody that's been there and done it, look, I'm wide open. I'm an open book.
We're going to tag him on this. You can connect with Lucas in a little bit.
Tell me what to do. I'll go do it.
I want to start. We're right here at mid-show. I want to start asking people to ask questions. I know there's a lot of Swell Spark people on here. So if there's a question you've been dying to ask Matt, now's your time.
We'll read anything. So if you put it on there, we'll ask your boss.
I'll do it for you. So
when are we getting raises?
We will stay out of the money portion. Shanee, let's circle back around to the PPP, right? Because I'm sure that consumed most of you guys when it came to COVID. What did you see with Bank of Blue Valley? So I was one of those people who I was with one of the big banks that I didn't get a call back from. And luckily, my CPA had a relationship we leaned on. But can you kind of talk about? I didn't have those relationships at the time. Now, obviously, why were we friends 6 months ago?
Yeah.
But can you kind of talk about how important you saw those relationships you guys have been working on for so long, and then also why it isn't told when you're a new entrepreneur? Nobody told me a banking relationship is going to be one of the most important relationships. Right. So can you kind of talk about those pieces?
Completely. It was huge. I think we spent most of our time during the early PPP days having the conversations with business organizations about who is your banker. Don't just reach out to the branch and see where you can get who is your banker. And that's something you should know, and they should be a part of your strategy, and have that kind of be your leading base throughout and from the beginning. From the moment you first start your bank account, it shouldn't be, okay, I just have a number here. No, they should be a part of your growth pattern. They should be a part of your strategic plan. It's how you truly do develop everything, especially how you're spending money, i.e. for what your COVID looks like. And for PPP, what we saw, unfortunately, because that information wasn't known to a lot of entrepreneurs, on asking one question: is your bank an SBA lender? I mean, knowing that from the beginning, and unfortunately, we had a lot of businesses who never thought about that. That wasn't a factor to them. And that was one of the biggest hindrances to so many making it through. Because as a bank, we have to do our responsibility of making sure that our clients are taken care of, and that the ones who are our clients are able to get what they need from us, because that's why they, bank with us. And so luckily, we kind of go very much community bank style, where we were on the phone calling our clients. So it wasn't, we were waiting on them to reach out to us to tell us. We were calling them every day, all day. We were on the phone. We each had call lists of 100 plus, of making sure that we talked to our clients. And even if they weren't assigned to a commercial banker, that we had personal bankers, we had our commercial assistants, we had everybody making calls to say that if you had a business account with us, you talked to a banker to figure out, do you want to go through the PPP process? Because some didn't. And as things unfolded with PPP, it may not have been something that was beneficial to that client. And so, it was their choice. But then we got an idea early on how many clients we needed to help, and if we would be able to open those doors to those who did not bank with us to get through things. We processed a lot of PPP loans, most definitely the top 10 in Kansas City. We take pride in that we were able, as the financial institution that we are, and we're not one of those big banks that you were talking about that needed to shut down anything. We processed the same amount. We did it by doing a lot of outreach, not waiting on people to call us, but it was a process. It was a very long, hard, process for us that we never want to see again as a banker. But, having the relationships ahead of time is what allowed so many businesses to make it over that hurdle very easily and not find themselves in a stress pattern. And so that's something I think we preach on every time I teach a seminar. That's one of the first things I say is, who is your team? If you can't answer that question, then you are automatically wrong.
Well, we appreciate it as entrepreneurs. I appreciate all the bankers, except for my bank that didn't call me back. But hello, Matt. First of all, we've got this question for you. They all see it seems to be a little competitive over there. I want to kind of talk to you, and I talked about the PPP, right? Because I remember there being a rush to get the PPP, and you and I chatted, and you were like, "I'm gonna wait and see what the city does too," right? Was that because of a relationship with the banker? Is that why you just seem so much more on it than I was?
Yeah, it's amazing. I speak often, and I think I've met with 3/4 of the banks in the Kansas City Metro over the course of the last 3 years as we've really started growing. And you hit it on the head. Like, if you don't know your banker, you're doing business wrong. And I think there was a point in time where a banker to me was the person you gave them your money, and then when you needed it back, you would go get it. And I think one of the great failures in some ways of our educational system, I could go off on a tangent, I won't go too far, it is not allowing folks to understand this, even in business school and college. Is I don't think that, it is amazing. You talk to a banker or you talk to folks in real estate, and they know everything about this city. They know all the developments. They know how to do what and where and the things you need to know. And so we were very fortunate, just because we have been talking to lenders and we've been looking at growth opportunities before COVID, that we had all of our stuff together. So the day that PPP opened up, we were like, we spoke to our local bank. They did a phenomenal job. But we spoke with other banks as well, because we also saw it as a unique opportunity potentially to create a new relationship with a relatively sizable loan through SBA structures and whatnot. But I remember texting with one of our banks at like 11:30 at night, and I'd get a response, and got to the point that I'm like, "Are you okay? Like, how are you doing?" And so hopefully you had folks checking in on you as well. But there was just there were so many people who were doing so much to keep this city ticking. And we were grateful to receive funding, from all of the various government programs, and that is in many ways what's allowed us to make it through this. As designed. I know there's a lot of frustration in the early days because there were so many rules and so many regulations, and the banks didn't know because they got it 3 hours before we got it, and so they're sorting it out in real time as well. But all things considered, if there's one thing when I speak with high schoolers or college students, I'm like, every success that I have had has been because of the relationships that I have in Kansas City, because of the relationships that I've created through business. It's not because I'm the smartest guy in the room. It's because we have great staff who are all in the next room over fighting and trying to make me get red in the face by asking absurd questions. But further, because we have great relationships here in town. And so I think in many ways, banks are some of the unsung heroes with all of this, because of I had so many people checking in on me, Matt, because they knew that my industry got crushed, right? We got kicked in the teeth hard. And there was very little that we could do other than lean on other folks and ask for help. And so, yeah, we're super grateful. We had, I think, really good experiences with PPP and with the EIDL and with kind of getting to help other folks as well. In the early days of COVID, we were on a daily call with a bunch of other folks here in Kansas City talking about how are you guys navigating this? And so I was able to kind of be, not to say a voice of reason, but again, Levi Holmes is our he does our finances, and he was just on it. And so I was able to focus on the visionary aspect of trying to keep this business rolling, and he was able to focus on getting mountains of paperwork sent over to our banks in real time so that it could all be processed through.
And you were up at 11:30 at night because you were being very innovative, right? So how were you able to do that while you were struggling with, oh God, I've got to lay off people and close locations and figure out my banking and all of that, and then also come up with a new product?
Yeah, it's funny, and I certainly don't like COVID, but I had multiple people who they're like, Matt, you're kind of like thriving right now. And I'm like, this kind of wild, wild west, like just do what you can mentality is how we built our business in the first place. It was like, okay, like here's our constraints, here's what we have available, make something of this. And I think oftentimes really creativity blossoms through constraints. And so we went through a program called EOS, which I can't speak highly enough of as well, where it's really defining clear goals of what it is that you're trying to do and trying to accomplish. And so, but at the end of the day, it was like, okay, we need to make money, like just point blank. How do we do that? And I think secondarily, we want to stay relevant. And so how do we come out of this whole mess, still being top of mind so that when people do decide to leave their homes again, that we're the first thing that they think of. And so we had three, I guess, big pivots, right? We have three different main brands in Kansas City. And so the first, we were able to partner up with the J. Rieger & Co. distillery and distribute over 12,000 bottles of hand sanitizer to folks around all over the state of Kansas, state of Missouri, and the state of Hawaii, our second biggest market. And so it was amazing to partner with them. Normally we would sell 500 bottles at a time and we would be sold out within 8 to 10 minutes. I mean, it was nuts. But we were able to take that customer-facing distribution off their hands. With the escape rooms, we created one of the first virtual escape games. And so this was actually a room that you can play via Zoom from the comfort of your home. And what's been really neat coming out of COVID is people are still playing it. It's still a bookable experience on our website. And we have people from South Africa and the Netherlands. And so we have people from all over the world who are playing this virtual game. But I think what's even cooler is we have families who are maybe around the United States. And it's, the son who lives in Baltimore and the daughter who lives in Dallas and, the grandkid who lives in Kansas City. And they're getting their family together to actually do something. And this was kind of my biggest struggle is I don't care much for like Zoom, right? I know a lot of people have, it's great from a functional standpoint, but like my best conversations are when I'm throwing a football with my brother or with a friend or whatever. And so it's like, man, we could have such a better conversation if we were actually doing something. And so I think we were able to create that with Breakout. And then lastly, we have this concept Sinkers, which is an indoor upscale mini golf bar and restaurant that we still will be opening in Kansas City, hopefully Q1. But we were like, can we launch a pivot of this brand before the brand actually exists? And the answer was yes. And so we actually launched a Sinkers at-home mini golf kit. And again, it's something that you can do with your friends and family, no matter where you are. We're encouraged. We have a patent on that product. And, in time, hopefully we'll be launching a much larger scale mass produced version of that because I think we sold out in 20 minutes, and it was keeping us as busy as we could. But that kind of back against the wall mentality is, I think it's woven in the fabric of who we are in the first place. We have our pillars as well, and one of them is eager, one of them is action oriented. And it was like, man, we can sit and complain or we could shut our doors, but like, we got to do something. And so I'm really grateful that I'm surrounded by people at my team who, when I was like, hey, do you want to go sell sanitizer out of a back alley? My director of finance, my director of ops, who both have, master's degrees and business degrees, they're like, yeah, let's go sell sanitizer in the back alley. I'm like, okay, here we go. But I think it gave us great purpose, right? It gave us something to do. It gave us the opportunity to help, like actually help people, which was huge to be able to do that. And I think from a selfish standpoint, again, it kept us relevant and it helped us keep the lights on, at our stores. And so, we'll have great stories to tell, we'll have great stories to tell our kids and grandkids of how we made it. And I think that's the resiliency of Kansas City in general, is there's lots of stories like that.
Just so you guys know, we were one of the people that bought the Sinkers, and it was a co-parenting gift for my daughter's dad because he had just redone his basement. So he really enjoys it. So mad props on that one too. And let's talk about your show a little bit, right? Because you said you have a podcast. This is your first time being a guest on a podcast. Did you have that podcast before COVID? And then I happen to notice a million podcasts and live shows pop up during COVID. Kind of what have you seen in that industry? And for your industry, it's not usual to have a podcast, right? I'm in marketing, so everyone has one. But for your industry, it's unusual. So how did you get there? That seems really innovative as well.
So we did start it pre-COVID. The plan was together, it was all ready to go pre-COVID. And I think I did one podcast before everything shut down. And so I was sitting in this very seat in my basement office at home during the shutdown. And I was like, what a better place. Like, this is a perfect place to do it. And so I really started to do a lot of them going, it was really a way to get outside of my comfort zone, outside of the box, some innovative way to, meet people, maybe find some clients as a result, just do something different. And it really pushed me outside my comfort zone. I think I'm extroverted, but I really prefer to kind of just, have a one-on-one conversation with someone. And so kind of putting myself out there and watching myself do it is a little rough, but I've definitely improved my skills, I think, over the last 6 months or so, but it's really fun and I enjoy it. I actually I just filmed one with my cousin who's in Australia, who I haven't seen in, 20 years, since I was a little kid. And he is in Australia, he's like the culture creator for Domino's Pizza in Australia. Like, he's a awesome story. And anyways, it was so fun because of technology letting us do those things. And I'm going to air that one in next month. So pay attention. I expect all of you to, no, I'm just kidding. Anyways.
You put them here on your LinkedIn when they go live?
They're all on LinkedIn. Yeah, they are. And if anyone wants to be a guest, reach out, let me know. I mean, it's pretty fun. Scott was a guest. It was fun, wasn't it, Scott?
Scott, you've been on a lot of podcasts recently.
Scott's a connector.
Chubby and approachable. You guys are all too good looking and they think you're selling something. But when they see me, they're like, I'll listen to that guy. So I need to go to Lucas's clinics because he looks phenomenal. He's glowing right now.
I know. I was like, what do you want to get? I'm like Googling. Lucas, okay, so since you dropped the bomb, I didn't know this. I don't know if you guys did, but since you dropped the bomb, you're in kind of two industries. Where did the most of your effort go to? And did you see a major divide on both those industries during COVID?
Yeah, we have pretty good people here at Watchmen, so I didn't have to spend a lot of time here. But yeah, a lot of my focus was over there because, it's like a startup, right? I mean, it's been in business for a long time, but given the environment, it was like we were starting all over again. So, and there was, it's called Empower Medical Center. It's been there for 20 years, right? Beautiful building in South Lee Summit. If you're ever in the area, come by and check it out. But just like what Matt was saying, I mean, this, we tagged on EOS there too.
Can you explain to everyone EOS?
Yeah,
it's showing nutshell for the audience.
It's just Entrepreneurial Operating System. Okay, and there's 6 key components that measures your business. Okay, data, people, vision, and some other ones. And it's like a wheel, and you want to be strong in all those areas because those key components are in any business, any size, are going to help any company grow. Okay. So it's an entrepreneurial operating system. It's a system that you can operate your business in. Okay. It gives you meeting pulse, gives you, structure, accountability chart, how you set up your accountability instead of an organizational chart. It's an accountability chart. You set up accountabilities in each seat, 5 to 7 things in each seat. And then you have scorecards associated to that drive the business forward. So, and then you have vision, and then you have quarterly meeting pulses. So it kind of just establishes things and sets it all up for you. Okay. So if you're starting a business, I would suggest looking into something like that.
As I make notes.
Yeah.
And made notes.
I did.
I thought I would make a note too.
Well, it's, the thing of it is it brings structure, right? And clarity.
Well, Scott, I'm in year 3, coming up year 3. So I figure after listening to Lucas talk about how his growth went and how he had his COVID, I don't want to do that. So.
Well, I figure if Lucas and Matt both did it, it's probably a good program to do, right? So here, somebody put this here: vision, people, data, issues, process, and
there you go. Those are the 6 key components right there. Thanks, Alex.
Alex, way to go, man.
Yeah.
Good listener.
But it helps. You know, it's an effective tool because you typically have vision, right? So like Matt's got a lot of vision, right? But if he doesn't have people around him to say, no, that's not a good idea, let's do this, right? He might have 50 things that he's working on and none of them get done, okay? Or they'll get done good, but they won't be awesome.
Well, one thing to add is the reason why I asked that question, and it's not really a huge secret, but it's something my company, we tried not to keep public, but we kind of created an echo chamber with our leadership that led us into a ton of debt, which then led us to selling our company. And we were the second largest privately held insurance broker in Kansas City. And so because of that, it's a rags to riches story where we ended up selling to an amazing organization, Hub International, which is a great story, best thing ever to happen to me outside of meeting my wife. But it became that because everyone said you always tell the CEO everything they want to hear. And so surrounding yourself with people that are going to challenge you and question you is really important, because the company I was at, we were like 30 plus million in revenue and we weren't doing good because we were spending and yes to everything. So it can get out of control quickly. And it's funny, you mentioned a year, it can happen quickly. So obviously very good to be following those rules. Aaron, I know we have maybe one more question. I know your good friend had a question right above our previous question, which I thought it was a good question to ask. What do you think?
I don't know what you're talking about. But
Mary Shannon. I'm trying to follow the rules of not breaking the rules of saying anything in the column. I get in trouble when I go into the column.
I don't know who you think my good friends are, my best friends are. So that's all. I did think this was a really good question. We've got 4 minutes left. So how important is it for small business to have the correct paperwork and financial processes? And let's go through really quick. Obviously, Shanee, this is to you, but what I found during COVID is I was very lucky to have a CPA that's organized, because I'm not the most organized girl. But as an entrepreneur on the bottom end, kind of explain how important you found that some of those processes were. So we'll start with you, Shanee.
If it's past 4 minutes, I'll do it, please. No, it was a huge thing. Luckily, Matt he was already in the process of doing some things with his bank prior to, so he had his paperwork kind of already ready. But honestly, it should be ready to go kind of at any time. Having your banker know who your CPA is, that's what helps so many of our financial, of each one of the businesses make it through. It's not just when we talk about your team, we say, we want to know who your lawyer is. We want to know who your CPA is. We want to know who you maybe work through for HR stuff if you're actually outsourcing that stuff. We want to know those things, because when this happens, it's very easy for all of us to know what the plans are for your business on an annual basis, for the whole team to be kept up to date. We work so much better together, and we're working for you. And so you don't have to do a lot of stuff. You don't have the, like Lucas was talking about, you don't have us as yes men. We're not there to be that. As your banker, I'm going to tell you, pump the brakes.
I feel like you would. I like that about you.
Trust me, I love my clients to death. I know during PPP and this year, I probably was not their favorite person, because I was very much like, calm your nerve, no. It's a lot of no's coming out of my mouth. But it was just something that, because we want to make sure that you make it on the other end, and that you are at year 8, year 10, year 15, and year 20. Because if you succeed, I'm doing good. And so we need to make sure we're working together for you to do that. So the paperwork is the first place that you're not an expert in your taxes and that's not what you do. You are an innovator in your business. So that's why you have a team to do those things and to work together to make sure you're good there. But if it wasn't ready to go, you saw a lot of small businesses really have to battle during this COVID time because you really didn't have the time to get it together. It needed to already be ready.
I love that. Okay, we've got 2 minutes left. You guys think the bottom 3 of you guys can do this in 2 minutes? Let's try it. So Shanee's tip is to have your paperwork ready. What's your number 1 entrepreneur tip? Matt, you first.
Number 1 entrepreneur tip. God, I might honestly right now go with that. Have your paperwork ready. If you're the visionary of your company, which just talking to folks, there's a couple other visionaries who are in this room, but if you don't know what you're talking about, when you are meeting with banks, when you're meeting with investors, when you're meeting with you're going to lose those growth opportunities. And I look back at some of the early bank conversations we had, and I laugh. I'm like, they'd ask questions like, so, do you have your 2017 P&L? And I'm like, my what? Excuse me, and that's part of me being kind of an accidental business person to start with. But you should know the ins and outs of your business. And I think sometimes we get so focused on just the next thing that we don't focus on the foundation of actually helping us launch to the next thing. And so a big piece of that, though, is knowing and understanding your financial data, knowing that every time I buy a piece of wood for $8.50, it's going to return me $9.12. And if I'm spending more than $8.75, we have probably, you have to know those things. And they seem kind of boring or they seem kind of intimidating, but you're not going to grow if you don't invest the time to understand how your business actually works on a numbers basis.
Love that. Yeah. And number one entrepreneur tip.
Oh, I thought, okay. Hire a CPA. Have good people around you. I think that's just what everybody's already said. But, we hired an awesome CPA, young guy who just kills it. And he keeps us all in line and makes sure that we are on the right track on the financial side. And we handle $100 million assets. So accounting for us is huge anyway. And that's fortunately a big part of our business. So we know how to handle the finances. But either way, if you didn't, a CPA, I'd say is definitely the way to go.
I love that tip. All right, Lucas, last but not least, number one entrepreneur tip.
I'm going to give two just real quick. Number one, do not give up on your dream. Number two, set your business up like you're an outside investor.
Interesting.
So detach yourself from the business and look at it through a pane of glass, like you're going to put your own money in this company. How does it need to look? Financially, operationally, sales, marketing. How does it need to look? And then go with that picture. And keep that in your mind all the time when you're making decisions. If I'm an outside investor, how does this look to an investor? Would I invest in myself, in my company?
Oh, I like that a lot. Well, those are all great tips I'm going to start implementing ASAP. We appreciate y'all for coming on here so much. Again, if you are looking for a new career, we highly suggest Bank of Blue Valley. It sounds like it's awesome to work there. Next week, we're giving Scott the boot. Scott will be in the comments with you, and the CEO of Bank of Blue Valley, Wendy Reynolds, will be here hosting with me. We have an all-female show next week. We have some major badass women on the show next week. So getting rid of all the boys, bringing in all the women. You're going to definitely want to tune in. If you want a reminder, then just go ahead and text us, Drinks with Leaders. We'll send you a reminder that the show's about to go live right here on LinkedIn and Facebook. Thank y'all so much for coming on with us. We really appreciate it. Thank you, Bank of Blue Valley, and we'll see you next week.
Great job.
Guys.
We have people